And Eloise, we want to welcome you back. Thanks for being here for our special programs.
It's special to be around at New Year's time.
Well, it's always special to have you here and have friends and everybody come. And then, of course, we have our teacher, Liz, who is very much into what all these festivals are, and she's going to help us again today with the lesson, aren't you, Liz?
Well, thank you, Doris. And friends, I hope you're enjoying this article just as much as we are.
I know all of your fans around the island, as you travel into the schools and the rallies, look forward to seeing you and Hei Junju and all the team. You like to go around the island and see all the students, don't you, Liz?
I really do enjoy it. It is great.
That's good. And Brandon, who's also often on our other programs and one of our editors. And Brandon, what do you think about this time of year? Is it very special?
It is special because I like to eat, and there's lots of good food to eat. But also, as I said yesterday, it's great to see families coming together. And it's different for me because, as I said, I did not grow up in a Chinese culture, so it's something new and kind of adventurous for me.
Well, that's true. And where is our lesson to start with today, Brandon?
Well, we are on page 35. We're in the second day of our article, A Time for Traditions, and we are talking about fun rituals and activities to start the day off.
Well, before we start this off, I wonder if you'd like to review anything.
Yes, let's cover yesterday's section of the article. We began with how this whole tradition ever started. We talked about how there are lots of legends and lots of stories, but the one we pointed out was the legend of Nian, and how Nian was viewed as this ferocious, mean old monster that people were afraid of. And people figured out how to keep Nian from attacking them using red couplets, lots of light, firecrackers, and all these things to keep Nian away. And when people realized that Nian was kept away, they congratulate each other, saying, 恭喜!
And I think kids were always afraid of those pictures of the dragons and Lin, weren't they?
Well, I think in every tradition we have some kind of a monster that is told to kids and keep kids,
be careful.
Scared. Right, be careful of the big bad wolf, for example.
Right. Yeah, in Norway they have the trolls, and they said the trolls will get you, and I guess other countries have these kind of monsters, don't they? I think they do. They're the kind of scare kids.
I think it's in every culture, some kind of a beast or creature that keeps kids scared, and at night especially.
Yeah, that's right. But, in Chinese New Year, the main thing for kids nowadays is not to be afraid at all. They look forward to new clothes, and didn't they usually buy red clothes for kids?
Well, red is a very lucky color. Red is this color that people like to have all around during Chinese New Year. And so, we also mentioned earlier, red is what keeps Nian away because red is the color that Nian fears most. So everyone puts on red.
Right. And it's also a very bright color, and it's a good winter color, too. And it's quite suitable for this time of year. So kids like to wear these new clothes. But what do the kids like the best?
They love receiving red envelopes because there's
money
inside the envelopes. Of course, they love to receive those, and they anticipate that every year.
That's true.
Right. Red envelopes with fresh, crisp, new cash inside. And we mentioned quickly, very fast yesterday, how there are some numbers that we want to avoid when it comes to red envelopes. And we know that 4 is an unlucky number in the Chinese culture. And people prefer 8 because 8 sounds like fa, which means to get rich. And then there's also 6 that many people like as well because it's about success and things coming in your way smoothly. So, yeah, there are a lot of these little traditions that you find around Chinese New Year. And we'll talk a little bit more about them today.
Good. So maybe we should start in reading today.
Yes, we're talking about fun rituals and activities.
So let's take the first reading.
Fun rituals and activities. New clothes are worn, and visits are made to friends, neighbors, and relatives to exchange good wishes of Gong Xi Fa Cai, which means congratulations and prosperity. As an occasion for reconciliation, it is a time when old grudges are cast aside amid an atmosphere of warmth and friendliness. One of the most spectacular sights during the Lunar New Year festival is the Dragon and Lion Dance. The heads of these fearsome beasts are supposed to ward off evil, and the nimble movements of the dancers provide a grand spectacle enjoyable to everyone. The second day of the Lunar New Year festival is the day that married daughters return to their parents' home. If she is a newlywed, her husband must accompany her and bring gifts for her family. As in all such festivals, food plays an important role throughout the Lunar New Year festival, and dinners tend to be especially lavish.
Well, we just talked about how during Chinese New Year, kids are all wearing new clothes. And we see here in the first sentence of this paragraph, new clothes are worn and visits are made to friends, neighbors, and relatives to exchange good wishes of 恭喜发财. And so that's something that people expect. People visiting and seeing people wearing new clothes and wishing each other, may you get rich. 恭喜发财. Congratulations and prosperity. And then there's something else we see here in line 18. What is it, Brandon?
Well, it's a time for reconciliation. Reconciliation meaning maybe you're angry at someone, and during this time you make up. You tell them, I'm sorry, and you want to be friends again.
Right. So, because during Chinese New Year, you want to keep everything happy, positive. You want things to be merry and cheery. And so when you have these grudges, these conflicts, it really doesn't, basically, it's almost like you're cursing your New Year blessings.
Liz, don't you also have to pay back your debts? Like if I owe you some money and I'm going to pay you pretty soon, I have to pay you before Chinese New Year, don't I?
It's best that you do that.
Right.
Because you don't want to carry
owe anybody any money over the holidays.
It's not
right?
good to carry all these bad things into the new year. You want to settle all these bad things, negative things, before you start this new year.
So people are always trying to get all these debts paid up, and it's kind of a busy time. They have to get their work done ahead of time. I remember when we used to print the magazine at Chinese New Year, we'd have to do it way ahead of time because all the printers took the time off. And, well, nobody worked, did they, Eloise?
No, it was a vacation time, a holiday.
All right.
That's right. But then you also have certain phenomena going on right now I've seen recently is people, because they're getting ready for Chinese New Year, they don't have time to get so many other things done. And so what I've seen, what some people would say is, let's talk about this next year.
Right.
You know, certain ideas, projects, they just don't want to get them started and then left hanging because people don't have time to deal with it. They would rather have their celebration first and then come back to work later and figure this whole project out later.
So you could say that right after Chinese New Year, people really have to work hard to get back into things again and get things going in a new way. So it's kind of like the end of the year. We always think of the end of December as the end of the year, but it's kind of like we have two ends of the years, isn't it?
That's true. That's true. We also see that the Western calendar, you know, the same thing happens around December, but then you also have the same situation happening again during Chinese New Year. So sometimes things are the craziest during February or March.
That's true. All the celebrations and things to do. But it's good to have reconciliation, and I would suggest that you don't wait until the end of the year. If you have a grudge against somebody, if you are holding something against them that you don't like, hey, don't wait until New Year's. Do it that day. Don't you think, Eloise?
Right. Well, you have that expression, keep short accounts.
That's right.
So quickly take care of those problems.
And grudges are really very bad things. I mean, what happens when people hold grudges? Sometimes people even get sick or they get angry or they fight. Grudges are really bad.
They make you very unhappy and cause a lot of trouble.
That's right. And then medically speaking, grudges are not healthy to have. And so if you want to start your year on a healthy note, go ahead and get rid of these grudges. Go and work things out with whoever it is that you're having problems with.
And if people are angry or upset with each other or they try to avoid each other, it's not very happy any place, whether it's in a company or a family. But when people forgive each other and they get that air cleared, then the atmosphere is better. It's kind of warm and friendly and family-like, and that's the way it should be, shouldn't it?
It makes it more enjoyable in a place to work as well, not just amongst the family, but in a business.
Right.
And in the world, we've got countries that are holding grudges one toward another.
And we like to make New Year's resolutions at regular New Year, and it's good at Chinese New Year. Say no more grudges. Don't hold grudges against anybody. That's a good
right.
rule.
That's a great way to go about the new year, because when you get rid of these grudges, you're free. You're free to be friendly. You're free to get along with people, and you will enjoy life more as well.
That's right. Well, moving on, there are some other great things going on during Chinese New Year, as we know. We know that when you go out, lots of firecrackers and fireworks at night, but then we also have these parades and shows that you can see in the streets. In the next paragraph, line 22, one of the most spectacular or awesome sights during the Lunar New Year festival is this special dance. And what is it, Brandon?
It's a dragon and lion dance, and these are definitely spectacular. They're exciting to watch and very interesting, very beautiful as well.
That's right. You have all these heads where then you have the soft body behind it, and then these dancers that are underneath that know how to control and make the whole costume look like it's alive. And then they can do these amazing acrobatic things. They can do flips and somersaults. It just almost looks like somebody trained the lion to do all these tricks.
I think that's kind of one of the most famous things in Chinese culture that people all over the world admire, is to see these dragon dancers, the way they can do things. Don't you think so, Eloise?
That, and I always looked forward to the lion dancers.
Right.
You see the picture down here at the bottom where they've got those, what do you call them, a pedestal? Mm-hmm. Where they would jump up on that with their feet. Mm-hmm. I guess that must work because they have smaller feet than I do.
I guess so.
I couldn't
jump
do it
better than I can.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the size of my feet that keep me from doing it.
Right. Well, there are actually competitions where, these troops or these teams of lion dancers will compete to see who has the more creative choreography, or basically whose lion looks more nifty,
Right.
at dancing around. And then there's a whole idea that when the lion comes through or the dragon comes through, they bring in all this good luck to that area. True. And as we see here, they're supposed to ward off evil, or to keep away or to chase away evil. And these dancers are described as being nimble. Their movements are nimble. It means they're very skilled and light. They don't look clumsy. They're very graceful, and they're just very good at what they do. And so it's very enjoyable for, the whole family to go see.
We often see people do dancing and choreography, but for these dancers that are doing this lion dance and these things, they're underneath that covering thing, and they can't see very much. And you wonder how they can even do it. Don't you wonder how they can do such a graceful thing?
They do. They must practice a lot, and they are very skilled in what they do.
It is not easy because you're under this costume, and it's not breathable fabric. You have to wear these heavy pants to make your legs look like the feet of the lion, and the person in the back has to he has to be hunched over. That means to stoop down. His back is constantly bending, and that's back-breaking. That's hard.
That's right. It's amazing, though.
I remember, though, too, when they would throw candy out of the mouth of the lion.
Oh, yes.
And of course, I like food, so...
And kids always like the candy.
And then the sign that would sometimes drop out of the mouth.
There'd be a saying on there.
Saying on it.
That's right.
Right. There are all these different creative things.
Yes.
And now they have all these new little lights now on the heads of the lion that would turn on, and it becomes a light show, too.
Pretty fancy, huh?
Yes.
Wow. Well, I think that's a very special thing for everybody, is to see these lion dances.
The dragon dances, too. They're not quite as popular as they used to be back when I first came to Taiwan. We would get to go to different places, and these long dragons would be there. But I haven't seen so many lately.
Not as many, no.
It's harder to do the dragon dance because, for one thing, you need the huge space to practice.
True.
And then you need a whole team of people who are strong enough to carry their little pole to keep the dragon in the air. And then you have to rehearse and run around and not get tangled up. So it is much harder. So if you ever see a dragon dance, that's a treat.
Yes.
Oh, it is. And people are now taking pictures and videos of it and sending it around the world to their friends. So now we can share that with other people.
Right.
But it is a very, very special thing. Well, that's one of the spectacular sights that you see. But, the first day there's not much traffic, and it's always nice because, you can just go around the city and there's not much traffic. They've all gone to the countryside, to their families. But the second day, the traffic starts in again. Why is that, Eloise?
That's because they have to go home to the daughter's house. The married daughter goes home and takes her husband and family along, and gifts.
Oh, that's right.
That's right, because day one is all about celebrating with the husband side of the family. If you're a married woman, day one is all about being with your in-laws. But to be fair, the wife's family should also get some family time too. So that's day two. The husband goes with the wife to her house, and you don't come empty-handed. You have to come with gifts.
It reminds us of our Christmas season because the same thing. They say this year you're going to go to the father's house or the mother's house, and you have to decide which one. And usually you go to one Christmas Eve and one Christmas Day, and you have to divide up the time with the two families, don't you?
Right. Here they have it all taken care of. You know where you're going to be.
That's it. No question about it. It's already decided.
Family doesn't get upset.
That's right. That's pretty interesting, right?
And if it's a newlywed couple that we're talking about, well, the husband must accompany his wife, and they must bring gifts to the family. And so that's another thing that is predetermined. If this is the case,
social
you just
obligation.
Got married, you must do this.
Right.
Well,
you don't have to
take
discuss
money or presents, or what do they take?
Money is an option. Again, the whole idea of that red envelope with cash inside. You bring your money as a daughter.
That's always nice.
Right. Nowadays, what's really popular is food items, especially health food items. The Chinese are so big on, herbal remedies and all these things that are supposedly good for older people, for their joints or for whatever it is. Maybe swallow's nest, maybe, some kind of chicken soup product. Who knows?
Don't bother bringing me any of those. Well, anyway, but all these festivals, that food does play an important part, whether you're taking it over as a gift or you're inviting people out. And you get invited by your friends, not maybe the first day. If you have a special Chinese friend, you might get to go to their home for the New Year's Eve dinner. I've done that many times, haven't you?
Yes, I did too.
Yeah. And then during the holidays, they always ask the foreign guests to come over certain times too. But they always invite each other and their bosses and different ones, and they have special big dinners that are really lavish.
That's right. They're lavish. They have these huge dinners. They cost a lot of money, and they spend a lot of time preparing this meal. And it takes, a lot of time and effort that is put into this.
Although nowadays you can order out and that could be delivered.
That's true. Convenience.
Yes.
And the same way with Americans, our mothers used to make all the homemade pies and fix the turkey and the chickens, and now they can order them already cooked and things, and people are doing that more and more.
And aren't they going to restaurants too?
Yeah,
a lot of the restaurants are now open.
Right.
Yes.
So that's for the holidays. They didn't used to be. It had to be home.
No. Times have changed a lot.
Right. Well, that is not always bad. It's just that the idea isn't who prepares the food so much. Make it easier on the wife or the mother and go out. You still have a good time together.
Right.
And some families take over a whole floor of a restaurant and have all their relatives there. That's kind of fun, but it's expensive.
Yes, but it's a good time for a family reunion. Well, we talked about all sorts of good things, but there are some things that we need to be aware of. These are what we call taboos, holiday taboos. So let's continue on with the second half of today's article.
Holiday taboos. The Lunar New Year festival is not all freewheeling fun, however, and certain negative superstitions and taboos at this time have never quite lost their pervasive force. For example, people believe it is unlucky to sweep the floor during the first 5 days of the Lunar New Year, because one might accidentally sweep one's good luck and wealth out of the house. Bad language and talk of death are severely frowned upon. If a dish is broken, it is vital to say, 岁岁平安, which means peace throughout the year as quickly as possible. And in some households, knives and scissors are put away so that no one will accidentally cut the thread of good luck in the year to come.
All right, so the Lunar New Year Festival is not all freewheeling fun. In other words, it's not just all about fun. We also have to be mindful of certain negative superstitions and taboos. In other words, it's just as equally important to make sure that the bad stuff is kept out while you're having fun with the good stuff. And we see here that there are certain negative superstitions and taboos at this time have never quite lost their pervasive force. Pervasive. That's a very good word, right, Brandon?
It is. It just means it's in maybe every part of your life or moving into every area, or it's everywhere, you would say. And so when you have these taboos or when you do something that's wrong, people would notice it and they would know that it is wrong because it is so obvious to them that you should not do this.
That's right. It's funny how, like, even though we have this whole legend about how it all started with trying to keep Nian the monster away. You know, we put up the red couplets and we have firecrackers and do all these things to keep this monster away. That story is just a story now. But then there are other things that people are very mindful, and these ideas are still all around. It continues to spread from generation to generation, and there are just some things you just don't do. For example, what's the first one we see here, Eloise?
We are not to sweep the floor for the first 5 days. I think a lot of the women must enjoy that.
Well, is that a superstition or a taboo or both? What's the difference, Eloise, in a taboo and a superstition, do you think?
Superstition is something I believe and I think is true. A taboo, you just don't do it.
Okay. So if it's a taboo, you better not do it. So is sweeping the floor kind of a taboo then?
Sweeping the floor would be a taboo because the superstition being you want to keep all the goodness in your house.
Okay. So just remember not to do that.
It makes it a little tricky because you have all these people coming through your house, and you can imagine when you have all these people walking through the house, how much dirt, dust, grime can come through. And
it's a good thing people take off their shoes a lot.
That's why it's very important to keep your shoes outside. But even then, after 5 days, your house can look a little run down. So that's one thing you can't do.
But why not? Why can't you sweep the floor?
Well, what if you sweep out the good force, the positive energy out the house, so to speak? You know, you just want to keep everything in that's good because you worked so hard to keep all the bad stuff out. You want the good stuff to stay as you start the new year.
Yeah, that is interesting that they have that, isn't it?
It is. You don't want to sweep out the good luck. You want to welcome it, and so they can take a rest. They don't have to sweep.
Right. And now, in addition to trying to keep all the good things, you also have to watch your language. We see here at the end of line 19 here, bad language and talk of death are severely frowned upon. So you don't say negative things and especially mention anybody's death.
Well, don't you think even in Chinese tradition and culture, people don't really like to mention death very much anyway?
Anytime,
right? Not that anybody likes to, but I think the Chinese even seem more superstitious about talking about death even. Don't you think so, Eloise?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But especially at Chinese New Year, that's not a good time at all. So let's not talk about that too much now.
Let's move on.
It's still part of the lesson.
Well, right. Well, we could point out this phrase, frown upon.
That's right. If you frown upon something, that means that you think it is wrong. You can think of someone's face. If they're frowning, they disapprove of something.
That's right. Sometimes you may not say that you don't like something. For whatever reason, you may choose not to voice it, your opinion. However, people can tell by your expression that you're not smiling.
Instead, frowned upon.
You're frowning at something. So that means that something has caused you displeasure. You don't like it. It's not a good thing. So it's frowned upon.
Well, I think it's frowned upon if you break the dishes, too, especially if they're very special dishes. If you got your very best bowls and cups and teacups out, it's kind of frowned upon to do that. But it's more than frowned upon. It means something if you break a dish at that time, doesn't it?
Yes, you don't want anything broken, but you have to quickly cover that negative activity with positive words. So if this unfortunate thing were to happen and your favorite bowl was shattered, then you have to quickly say 岁岁平安, which is it's a play on word. It's a pun because 岁, as we know in Chinese, actually means the pieces or the shards. from the bowl, but then it's also the same sound as in ages or time or year. So may there be peace through the times.
Remember that, Brandon. If you go to somebody's house and you break a dish, you better write that phrase down.
I'll write it down.
So you can say that one as quickly as possible. And then in some houses, they even put away the things like knives and scissors and things. Why do they do that?
Well, because all those things could cause harm. What if you were to accidentally poke yourself? And that could be a terrible thing to begin your year with a cut. So,
well, and you don't want to cut threads for your good luck for the next year. You want to keep everything going, right?
That's right. And that includes a haircut, too.
That's true.
So there are all these different things that we have to bear in mind as we're having a good time. But then people are very conscientious of making sure that the negative stuff is kept out of the house in order to ensure that you have a happy new year.
Well, there's other traditions that we haven't had time to talk about yet, and since it's still kind of the holiday season, we'll just spend another day on some of these traditions and customs. So come back tomorrow for the last day of this lesson on time and traditions. Thank all of you for being with us, those of you that have come to the class, and those of you who are listening. So we still want to wish you a very good time and a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year!